With 2021, we are hitting completely new heights as far as the Fallout modding scene, as we've seen several mods actually get completely remade and re-released at a much higher quality, updates for large-scale mods out there already, and just new features being added in every day. Whether that be weapon mods with new functionality that really isn't all that common but begins to set a new standard going forward, or even just features that are silly and simple but will definitely up your immersion factor. In this video, I really want to give you a recap and kind of a highlight reel of some of the best mods to come out for Fallout 4 over the past couple of months, and really hopefully give you some incentive to perhaps start that extra playthrough, or again, just keep up to date with what's actually going on with this game. With that said, if you guys enjoy the content, you can leave a like or subscribe, or actually follow me on Twitter. We're starting to get into that gaming leak, rumor, and speculation season, and there's a lot of stuff that gets leaked or supposedly leaked that I debunk on Twitter or commentate on there, and it never makes it onto the channel, a lot of the times because it's total BS. But then first and foremost, let's take a look at the X12 Plasmacaster. This is one of the recent weapon mods to release for Fallout 4 and immediately shoots its way up to one of the best energy weapon mods available. This because it does several things really well. Right off the bat, it is a very good looking weapon mod in Fallout 4, and although it's different, not quite the exact same as anything else in game, it still feels like it would fit in pretty well. It has that sci-fi theme, and it definitely seems like something that would be future tech or design developed by the Enclave or Institute in this game. It of course has a variety of customization options to choose from, several of which are actually quite unique and add unique functionality, but we'll talk more about that in a moment, but also some really nice looking reload animations. The reloads on this one were just very satisfying, which is something I feel like a lot of other energy weapons miss out on. But one of the other really cool aspects of this is it actually makes it feel like there is a powerful and valuable plasma weapon in Fallout 4. By default, the plasma weapons just kind of look sad, like they're loosely thrown together, super prototype just to prove this technology works, while this new X12 Plasmacaster looks like a more final form with a lot of money and development behind it, and it fills out Fallout 4 as that high-tier alternative with integration into some of the level lists. But if all that wasn't enough, this mod also has some custom features to go along with it, as you could actually set hotkeys and toggle several aspects of this mod. So on the fly, you could actually change whether it is single fire or fully automatic, which is just awesome. Of course, a standard in several other games, but in Fallout, not many weapon mods have this being as easy as just one hotkey press. Even further, and even a bit cooler, you can toggle between the main weapon and a underbarrel grenade launcher, this too featuring its own custom set of animations. Now, technically it isn't a grenade launcher, you are still using a custom ammo type, these being overcharged plasma cells, and it makes this way more fun to use, to just on the fly switch to that underbarrel, blast a couple of enemies away with it, then switch back to the typical fire type, but then also a ton of attachments you can customize, whether it be a flashlight, a laser sight on or off, and even some of the scope and zoom options. All of those again just being by toggleable hotkeys that you set in the mod configuration menu. Overall, I would say this is pretty much a must download, one of the coolest weapons aesthetically in that it fits in the world really well, but also bringing a ton of nice features into Fallout 4. But if you like that grenade launcher, another great one for the game is IceStorm's GRL-45 grenade launcher, which is a more true to form, traditional, but also somewhat futuristic looking grenade launcher for this game. Now at its core, this weapon looks amazing. The actual textures themselves and the model are extremely high quality, but it also just, I would say, has a pretty nice aesthetic with some of the skin options. Sometimes with weapons, only the base version looks good and then the skins are a bit of a downgrade, but not with this one. And it does what you want from a grenade launcher, having several different explosive types, whether it be cryo, nuclear, regular grenades, and other things like incendiary and plasma. This being another great one to add to your game because it adds itself in with a level-less integration, so after a certain level, high-tier enemies will spawn with this grenade launcher. There are not a lot of great heavy weapon mods, and especially not explosive heavy weapon mods in Fallout 4, even in the modding scene. So this is a cool one to integrate into your game, and there even is a special heat-seeking variant that you can find somewhere that apparently the Institute was working on. This being so you could lock onto enemies and have those grenades actually target them and fly directly at them. A pretty cool one that is a top tier option if you find it. Now that you have some new weapons in Fallout 4, you may actually want something to do with those new weapons. So next up, we do have Old Time Religion, another mod that only just recently came out. What this is a several hour long quest mod. Now with quest mods on this channel, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to cover too much and spoil the actual quests themselves. But in essence with this one, you're going to meet somebody who has just made their way over to the Commonwealth, coming from some other familiar Fallout regions. And even among their supplies, you could find some things that did appear in other Fallout games, which is pretty cool, and they're going to have you set out looking for a certain book. And along the way, you'll meet some characters, get into some fights, and even in the end, get a player home as well as some unique weapons and go to a new world space. But I don't really want to spoil any of that, so what I'm going to leave you with is, this is a solid one. It's relatively short, but still several hours of new content, and it's a great one to download a couple of new weapon mods or other mods like armor and miscellaneous items, and then jump into this quest for something to use them on a bit more practically. As well as I think the voice acting is actually quite well done for this one.
Me to find all of them left after the Great War. Been traveling eastward, collecting all these here books ever since. But I can't do it alone. From word of mouth around the Commonwealth, the last known book might be in that old forgotten church in the glowing sea.
But then we have a big one, especially for the PC users out there, as this will quickly become a definitive must download, and it just came out over the past couple of months. That with FallUI. And although I'm gonna just really refer to this as FallUI, technically I'm talking about 4 different mods here. There's the core FallUI, but then also in addition to that, as well as extensions to the map, as well as to the workbenches of Fallout 4. Each of these from the same mod author and with somewhat similar functionality though, so I'll just talk to them as one unit, even though they again are 4 separate downloads. And at its core, what this is going to do is optimize the menus and UI functionality for PC players. There's a lot of games out there that are clearly designed with the controller in mind. It's actually becoming more and more common with modern titles. Fallout 4 was that to a certain degree, and basically what this mod does is add in a ton of additional functionality that really caters towards keyboard and mouse users, in particular the mouse. So what you'll immediately find when using this one, let's say when in your Pip-Boy, is there's just way more information. You'll be able to see the damage, DPS, weight value, the value per the weight, as well as the actual name of those items. And of course, some extras if you do have that corresponding mod installed. And basically, you could sort by any of those. Just by simply clicking on one of those values, you'll actually have your inventory now sorted by that, as well as actually being able to go into subcontainers and see additional information. And even for each inventory tab you do occupy, you have a ton of information at the bottom. How much this tab is occupying, so you can see this is my weight for the current tab I have open, how much weight I am using overall, and then my max carry weight for this character. And when you open up that transfer screen, it even gets a bit more in depth. You have all that same functionality with sorting, but even things like a search is now available. You could transfer over all of your non-favorited items or even certain duplicate items quickly. You could quickly just transfer everything. There are actually some hotkeys in this one, so you could see you could transfer things one at a time, or by holding a button, transfer the whole stack at once. You won't have that menu pop up anymore. You could just manually transfer a whole stack, which is really convenient. And all of that, and even some additional features, extend over to the trade menu with vendors in Fallout 4. Where this becomes even more helpful though is with those workbenches, as you just have way more information on your screen as you're modding weapons. You can see all kinds of different values and stats around your weapons, which makes it a lot easier to sort which one you want to modify or which mods you want to apply. And even though all of that is phenomenal, and I'm not even mentioning everything there just for the sake of time, what I think is perhaps my favorite aspect of this is the map changes, as it adds in a lot of functionality to the map in Fallout 4. Right off the bat, you actually just have a full list of all of the locations in Fallout 4 that you have discovered in alphabetical order, that you also have a travel time to them. So you can click on this and quickly fast travel there to set a waypoint. You can quickly and easily see all of your owned workshops. I only have one, but this will populate with every owned workshop you have unlocked. And even see those little icons in the top left, you could actually set favorited fast travel spots. So just by opening the map quickly, you click on one of these and immediately will fast travel to that location. You could set up to 5 custom ones in the menu. And if all of that wasn't enough, you could actually search locations, which is a huge quality of life feature. Between me downloading a ton of mods for this game and perhaps just not being that good with maps and geography in real life, I will consistently forget where certain things are, and being able to just search certain locations that I know the name of but forget where exactly they are in Fallout 4 is so handy. And there are a ton of other visual changes and UI changes you can make with the settings menu. I'm just not going too deep into them here. So overall with this one, I would say the FallUI catalog is going to be a must download and really just a keep forever for many people. It's building atop and improving on the def inventory mod, which a lot of people used already, and this just adds in so much additional functionality that it really is hard to ignore. At first glance, it definitely can be overwhelming in some of those menus, but once you get a feel for it and understand what each of the buttons do and start to learn some of those hotkeys, it'll allow you to handle the menus and inventory system a lot quicker and actually spend a lot less time in it overall. And actually just a smaller mod from the same mod author but not FallUI is the Better Sleep and Wait menu. This completely overhauling the sleep and wait menu, so now you could actually have some default times that do pop up. If you don't really care about time but just how bright or dark it is, which is kind of what I tend to do a lot of the time, you have a nice scroll for that also. And even you could wait up to a month in the future. You'll be sitting at this menu waiting for a while still, but hey, if you wanted to do it, or even just a quick and easy 3 days so the vendors reset, you could do all of that via this mod. It's another really handy one. But okay, that was a bit of a detour into the menus and inventories of Fallout 4, but how about some just familiar and actually quite lore-friendly weapon mods? Then we do have Miniguns Rebirth. This may sound familiar to you, as these miniguns were actually released several years ago by this mod author. But naturally, as the modding scene does evolve and continue, those slowly became outdated. But now we do have Miniguns Rebirth, which was a recreation of the 3 of these. And as you can see in game right now, these still do look really good. If they do look familiar to you, that is because these are actually some of the miniguns to appear in other Fallout games. Even though in many of these games, they're simply referred to as the minigun, they actually are different types and different models of minigun. And in effect, what this will do is make it so Fallout 4 will now have nearly all of the different options. And of course, these will have their own customization options, different skins, shields, and numerous barrel types that you can apply to the weapons themselves. But in game, what this means is you get a quick and easy, lore-friendly way to flesh out your level list. These will appear not only for you, but also with other enemies, and they're just a lot of fun to use. If you're tired of the typical Fallout 4 vanilla minigun, there are some great alternatives added with this, some of which are actually not quite as powerful, more fleshed out for the lower levels of Fallout 4, and other ones that are definitely more fitting for the higher levels. But it is really cool to see a mod author realize his mod is slowly becoming outdated, or as the standards are moving forward, and come back later with basically a full remake that vastly improves things overall. But if you're looking for something else a bit simpler, we also do have the Ruger Mini 14. So really at its core, this is a relatively simple weapon mod for Fallout 4. It is in the Ruger 14 with several customization options. You can mess around with the barrel length, some of the different scopes and attachments that will pop up on this, or the overall aesthetic of the weapon. But one of the reasons I like this weapon mod is I feel like it actually makes a lot of sense to appear in Fallout 4. I think if there was a more modern day real life Fallout game without the divergence, you'd see a lot of these being used by a lot of people or found in the world. It's just one of those things, even among more modern weapons for this game, that I feel like makes a lot of sense to appear in it. And it also has a unique variant that does appear in the world to spice things up even a bit more. This mod doesn't really do anything insane or crazy, but it's really solid, and I think it does, again, fit into the world quite nicely. But then we have another step into modders making Fallout 4 the ultimate Fallout game, and that is with the addition of the T65 Power Armor, coming out just a couple of weeks ago. And this should look very familiar to some of you, as what this actually is the power armor to appear and make its debut with Fallout 76's Wastelanders DLC, kind of dubbed the Secret Service Power Armor for a time. Over the past couple of months, this modder has been adding in many of the Fallout 76 power armors, and I've kind of dubbed it how modders are taking all the best features from other Fallout games and accumulating them in Fallout 4 to make it the ultimate Fallout game. And I actually think this may be his best work yet, in a couple of ways, in that I just think this power armor looks really cool. It's not the most custom or most profound and unique looking, but it just looks like a solid, very Fallout power armor. And also, it actually is very representative and very close to what we had in Fallout 76. Although featuring some custom textures for Fallout 4. These modders can't just rip the files from Fallout 76 and port them over. These are being remade for free as a download for this game, and I think this is again a really solid one. Not to mention with Fallout 76 being a prequel, it is quite lore friendly for this power armor to pop up in the Commonwealth over 100 years later. But speaking of things popping up in the Commonwealth, we also do have the Mojave Mantises. The Mantises were a staple in the Mojave Wasteland, and basically these are going to add in a very familiar and similar looking creature into Fallout 4. They have a couple of different variants, a albino, a regular, as well as a glowing type, and from time to time we may even be able to find some smaller ones floating around the world. And really at its core, it's a simple mod. It's going to add in one new enemy type that will spawn in Fallout 4. These guys will typically spawn where blood bugs do spawn, but I love mods like this because Fallout 4 creature mods are so sparse, especially lore-friendly ones that just fit in. If you're still playing Fallout 4, still downloading mods, you've probably encountered blood bugs hundreds, if not thousands of times, and now from time to time, instead or in addition, you'll also encounter some mantises, which just feels a lot better. A bunch of little mods like this, adding in a new addition to the world, make an entire playthrough feel a lot more unique and custom, and it's, to me, one of the real awesome aspects of the modding scene. Which, speaking of, another immersive and simple one is animated Radaway. What this mod is going to do is add in a totally custom animation for Radaway, this being a pretty cool one. Unlike some of those other animation mods for chems out there, this will have a nice little syringe that is whipped out as you are taking that bag of Radaway and actually using something to facilitate it healing you. It's a really simple one, but just basically whenever you use Radaway, you'll now have this animation play, very similar to a stim pack. But if that wasn't enough and you were looking to up the immersion factor even a bit further, we also do have the mod Cough. So this one's hilarious. Basically, what it's going to do is if you do a variety of things in Fallout 4, whether it be falling, getting sick, or eating dirty food or water, your character will now cough, with fully functional animations for both first and third person. And even, actually, there are several different coughing animations that will play for that first person perspective. So basically, if you do something that would typically make you cough in real life, your Fallout 4 character will now cough for a couple of seconds. It's hilarious, but I guess if you're going for a hyper-immersive playthrough, another great one to add to your game. So this next part is weird. If you're fortunate enough to stick around for the end of this video, I have a special treat for all of you. Actually, some mods I can't show you. So do you like some of the darker mods for Fallout 4? I'm personally a huge fan of them. I like some of the more horrific mods, making it feel like you're truly in a post-apocalyptic setting and adding in more horrific aspects to the Commonwealth, really not making it so PG as it currently exists, like what raiders may actually do. And there are two new mods that just released that definitely make the Commonwealth a bit darker, but I just can't show them. I tried thinking about a way to do this, and unless I just literally blur the entire screen as well as talk in code, I couldn't show these two mods to you. So I'm going to have them linked in the description as two special secret links if you're into that type of stuff. If you're not, you could probably just pass them up. But otherwise, that is going to wrap it up for this one. Hopefully you guys found this video informative. We're getting into a pretty interesting point for Fallout 4 modding. The modding scene has really matured, and we're starting to get more of those kind of fundamental but periodic releases. Like several of the mods in this video are extremely high quality and really must downloads, but there just aren't as many releases as frequently. I don't inherently think this is a bad thing, quality over quantity, but it should also be an interesting year for Fallout 4. As far as I understand it, we have a couple of big catalysts coming up. The potential reveal of Starfield, which is likely going to impact the game in some way, but even other things like Creation Club isn't completely dead as far as I understand it, so we could be seeing more Creation Club releases in 2021. There was actually no releases in 2020, but again, I understand there are still things on the horizon. But even further, that Point Lookout DLC from the Fallout 3 remake mod, that should hopefully be coming out at some point in 2021, and whenever you have something big like that release, that'll probably get a lot of mainstream media attention. The modding scenes always get a huge influx of new content, more attention, and even just people returning to the game. So there's a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. Again, hopefully you guys found this one informative, but with that said, I hope to see you all next time. Later.